Across every civilization that has risen and fallen, there have always been objects so dangerous that kings, priests, and scholars agreed on only one thing: they must never be touched again. These were not ordinary relics or sacred charms, but vessels of power beyond understanding. Artifacts created through blood, faith, or forbidden knowledge, said to contain energies capable of reshaping reality itself. While most traces of them were erased from official history, fragments remain, in old texts, hidden tombs, and legends whispered by those who claim these objects still exist, sealed away far from human reach. What binds them together is not the magic they hold, but the curse they carry. Each one demanded a sacrifice, and every attempt to wield them ended in ruin. The first of these artifacts comes from the deserts of ancient Mesopotamia, where the ruins of forgotten ziggurats still rise above the sand. Known as the Heart of Ashur, it was said to be a stone carved from the blackened remains of a fallen meteorite. According to legend, it pulsed with its own heartbeat and could command fire itself. Priests of the old gods claimed it was a divine gift, a fragment of the heavens, and used it in rituals to summon storms of flame against their enemies. But the stone's hunger grew. When one of the priests tried to contain its power inside the temple walls, the structure burst into flames from within, leaving behind only molten sand and ash. Terrified of what they had awakened, the survivors buried the stone beneath a pit of salt, sealing it with iron chains and inscribing over it the words, "To unearth this heart is to burn the world anew." The second artifact emerged centuries later, hidden in the depths of the Alps, an object known as the Mirror of Sighs. It appeared to be nothing more than polished obsidian framed in silver, but its reflection did not show the world as it was. Those who looked into it saw their greatest regret staring back at them, alive and breathing. Historians believe it was forged by a reclusive order of monks who sought to cleanse sin by confronting the soul. But instead of redemption, the mirror became a trap. The reflections began whispering, offering knowledge, promising forgiveness in exchange for blood. When one monk attempted to shatter it, his reflection stepped out before the glass broke. By dawn, the entire monastery was empty, the mirror lying face down on the altar, cold to the touch. It was sealed inside a silver coffin and buried beneath the chapel floor, where it remains hidden, if the stories are true. Far from Europe, in the high mountains of Tibet, legends speak of an artifact called the Bell of Endless Sleep. Crafted from 7 metals and said to be tuned to the frequency of the human soul, the bell was used by monks to guide spirits into the afterlife. But something went wrong. One night, when the bell was struck during a funeral ritual, every living creature within the monastery fell silent and did not wake again. Their bodies were found days later, perfectly preserved, as if frozen in time. Fearing the sound might travel beyond the mountains, the remaining monks sealed the bell within a monastery wall, covering it with hundreds of prayer flags to muffle its call. Locals still claim that when the wind howls through the valley, they can hear a faint metallic tone, a single chime echoing from the mountain, like a soul calling to be freed. In the jungles of South America, explorers once uncovered a small golden idol unlike any other, known among locals as the Weeper of Blood. It was said to represent a forgotten deity of vengeance. The idol's eyes were inlaid with rubies, and when moonlight struck them, it appeared to cry tears of red. The natives warned that it was cursed, that anyone who took it would be followed by death itself. Ignoring the warnings, the explorers carried it back to Europe. Within months, all but one were dead, victims of accidents, fevers, and madness. The survivor locked the idol inside a lead chest and threw it into the deepest part of the ocean. But fishermen still tell stories of red stains rising on the water during full moons, as though the sea itself remembers what was lost. What all these artifacts share is a single truth: they were never meant to exist in human hands. Each one offered power, knowledge, or protection, but demanded a cost no one could bear. Their creators disappeared, their followers perished, and their resting places were sealed by those who learned the lesson too late. Yet even now, the thought persists that somewhere, beneath temple floors, inside mountains, or at the bottom of oceans, these relics still wait, silent, watching, and very much alive. Among the many relics buried by history, few inspire as much fear as the fifth and final artifact, the Mask of Thorns. Its origin remains uncertain, but fragments of scripture found in both Greece and northern Africa describe the same object: a face carved from obsidian and ivory, lined with sharp metallic vines that wrapped around the wearer's head. It was said to grant its possessor the ability to see truth in all things, to perceive not only what was visible but what was hidden in the hearts of others. Yet truth, when seen without mercy, is unbearable. The mask's first owner, a high priest of an unnamed cult, reportedly gouged out his own eyes after wearing it for 7 nights, screaming that the world had become a mirror of endless pain. Every person he looked upon, he claimed, was dying slowly, consumed by invisible wounds. His followers sealed the mask in a box of cedar and iron, then buried it within catacombs beneath the desert sands. But centuries later, when French archaeologists reopened those tunnels, their journals stopped abruptly after describing a sculpture that seemed to watch us breathe. The site was closed permanently, and the artifact was never mentioned again. What unites all these objects is not merely their danger, but the sense that they resist destruction. Records show that attempts to melt, burn, or shatter these artifacts have always failed. Monks who tried to dissolve the mirror of size in acid found that the liquid turned into glass. Miners who struck the Heart of Ashur claimed their tools shattered before touching the stone. Even the bell of endless sleep, supposedly entombed in stone, has been heard echoing during earthquakes, as if something beneath the mountain still remembers. It is as though these objects are not lifeless relics, but entities in their own right, anchors between the human world and something that lies beyond comprehension. Modern researchers often dismiss these legends as exaggerations born from fear, but the evidence they leave behind is difficult to ignore. Ancient texts from separate cultures describe the same phenomena. Objects that hum faintly when the moon is full, or that alter temperature when brought near the living. Historians have noted entire villages relocated after the discovery of unusual relics, often accompanied by reports of strange lights in the sky or sudden storms. In several cases, sealed chambers containing such artifacts have been found deliberately collapsed, as though their builders were not protecting them from thieves, but protecting the world from them. The question that remains is why these artifacts were created at all. Were they tools of worship, weapons of war, or failed experiments in controlling forces that humanity was never meant to touch? Every account ends the same way, with silence. No record describes what happened after the final sealing, as if those who witnessed it were unable to speak again. Perhaps the true power of these objects lies not in what they can do, but in what they make those around them see, a glimpse of eternity that the human mind was never built to endure. And so, across continents and centuries, they remain sealed, not destroyed, but waiting. Because if history has taught one undeniable lesson, it is that what is buried by fear is always unearthed again by curiosity. And when that day comes, the world may discover that some doors were closed for a reason. Throughout time, there have always been those who could not resist the pull of the forbidden. Scholars, treasure hunters, and even secret organizations have spent generations chasing these sealed relics, convinced that they were not curses but keys, gateways to lost knowledge or divine power. They call themselves preservers of truth, yet history remembers them as something else entirely, the ones who woke what should have remained asleep. Their records are fragmented, scattered across burned manuscripts, confiscated letters, and recovered journals written by hands that trembled until the final line. But when pieced together, they all seem to trace the same pattern. Where one artifact is found, the others begin to stir. In 1897, an excavation in the sands of modern-day Iraq uncovered an unusual iron vault carved with ancient cuneiform symbols warning of the sleeping fire. Inside, workers claimed to find a stone that pulsed faintly in the dark, a description matching that of the Heart of Ashur. Within a week, several members of the team fell ill, reporting a constant ringing in their ears and the sensation of heat rising from beneath their skin. By the time the vault was resealed and shipped to London, it had vanished. The ship's manifest showed that the crate was loaded, but it never arrived at its destination. Some believe the box still lies somewhere at the bottom of the Red Sea, while others insist it was retrieved and hidden again by those who understood what it truly contained. Years later, during the chaos of World War II, a private division within the German military was rumored to have located the Mirror of Size. Witnesses described a convoy transporting an object wrapped in black velvet from the ruins of a monastery near Salzburg. No official record of the mission exists, but after that night, strange events were reported near the area. A sudden frost in midsummer, soldiers claiming to see their own reflections walking ahead of them, and an entire unit that vanished while guarding the transport route. The surviving officers were found days later, blind and incoherent, mumbling in languages no one recognized. The mirror was never recovered. In the years that followed, similar patterns emerged around the world. Locals near the Tibetan border reported tremors that sounded like distant bells, even when the mountains were still. Off the coast of Chile, divers found a lead chest filled with red coral fragments, said to match the description of the idol known as the Weeper of Blood. But the most disturbing report came from an undisclosed research facility in Eastern Europe, where scientists claim to have examined a black mask fused to the remains of an ancient skull. Their official notes describe it as a biological artifact, pulsing faintly as though alive. The building burned to the ground days later under mysterious circumstances, and no records of the discovery have survived. Each resurfacing, each whisper of discovery, always ends in silence. It is as if these relics are bound together by an unseen thread, one awakening the others, each responding to the faint call of the next. The truth may be that none of them were ever meant to be separated. Together, they might form something far greater, something ancient civilizations once understood and feared. For now, the seals hold, but history has a way of repeating itself. And if these artifacts ever find their way back into human hands at the same time, the world may finally understand why they were sealed away forever. Every story about power ends the same way, with silence. The artifacts sealed away by our ancestors are not merely relics of superstition, but reflections of the human need to control what cannot be controlled. They were created in the pursuit of mastery, yet all they brought was ruin. Each one served as a warning carved into time itself, a reminder that some truths were not meant to be seen, some sounds not meant to be heard, and some forces not meant to be touched. Time has buried their names, but not their influence. Even now, the memory of their power lingers, shaping myths, religions, and fears across every culture that followed. Humanity keeps forgetting, but the world does not. The seals remain intact, at least for now, but history has shown us that curiosity always returns to the same forbidden places where it was once punished. The truth is that destruction has never been the end for things created with intention. What if these artifacts were not destroyed, but simply waiting? Beneath mountains, oceans, deserts, and cathedrals, they may still rest in their hidden tombs, untouched but not asleep. Many believe that energy never dies, it only changes form. If that is true, then the echoes of the Heart of Ashur, the Mirror of Sighs, the Bell of Endless Sleep, the Weeper of Blood, and the Mask of Thorns still hum quietly beneath the surface of our world. Some say that during rare natural disasters, when the ground trembles, when fire erupts from the sea, or when sound travels farther than it should, the seals weaken for a moment. For that brief instant, the forgotten powers exhale. And when that happens, the air grows colder, the wind begins to whisper, and the earth remembers what it was forced to forget. Legends across cultures seem to confirm this. Fishermen claim to see red glows beneath the waves on nights when the moon bleeds into the horizon. Monks in remote temples hear bells that no one has touched for centuries. Explorers deep within ancient ruins feel their compasses spin wildly, as though pulled toward something breathing beneath the stone. Skeptics call it coincidence, but those who have witnessed it speak with trembling voices. They say the artifacts call out when the world becomes too quiet, when humanity forgets the price of arrogance. They do not seek to be found, they simply remind us that they still exist. Perhaps that is why those who study forbidden relics always speak of the same sensation, the feeling that they are not uncovering the past, but being watched by it. That every discovery, every excavation, is not humanity finding the lost, but the lost finding humanity again. Some researchers have reported dreams that seem to continue the work they perform by day, as though their thoughts are no longer entirely their own. Others describe hearing distant sounds, metal against stone, whispers behind walls, pages turning in rooms that are empty. The deeper they dig, the stronger the feeling becomes, until they are forced to abandon their research altogether. What they never realize is that abandonment changes nothing. Once the memory awakens, it does not sleep again. The question is not whether these artifacts still exist, but whether the world is ready to face them if they do. Because power this old does not disappear, it waits. It learns patience from the earth that conceals it and hunger from the silence that surrounds it. And one day, when the last seal breaks, it may not be the world rediscovering its history, but history reclaiming the world. Every myth ever told, every warning written in scripture, every forgotten symbol carved into stone may not have been superstition, but preparation. Perhaps our ancestors did not fear gods or monsters, they feared what they themselves had created. Before ending this journey through the shadows of forbidden knowledge, there is something far more powerful than any relic to acknowledge: those who make it possible to keep these stories alive. To our first 100 subscribers, this entire project exists because of you. Your curiosity, your passion for the mysterious, and your willingness to explore the hidden corners of the past give meaning to every story we tell. You are the foundation of this channel's beginning, the first to believe that mystery still matters in a world that tries to explain everything. From the deserts of Mesopotamia to the mountains of Tibet, from sealed tombs to forgotten texts, these stories have survived centuries because someone cared enough to listen, and now that someone is you. Every view, every comment, every moment you spend watching helps open another door into the unknown. You are not just watching history, you are keeping it alive. And as this channel grows, one promise will remain unbroken. We will continue to uncover what time tried to erase, with respect for those who came before and wonder for the mysteries that still remain. From all of us behind the screen, thank you for the first 100. This is only the beginning. The world still holds countless secrets waiting beneath its surface, sealed by those who feared their return. Together, we will find them, and we will listen to what the silence has been trying to tell us all along.